Alrighty, let's dive into a pretty loaded topic, which is mindful eating or intuitive eating. Now, this is something that we all want to strive for. It's kind of that way of eating that we all wish we could do and still see progress with. But, the unfortunate reality is that when a lot of us eat to feel good or eat what's right for us, we actually don't know where that's leading us, and it could, be preventing us from actually getting to our goals. At the same time, we may have not also gone through practices to better understand why we eat certain things, how we feel when we're eating them, not only physically but emotionally. And all these are so important to help better understand our bodies and our minds and its relationship to food, so that we can actually start to eat mindfully and intuitively and actually know what that feels like. When we hear the words, do what's right for you, or do what's best for you, or eat so that it makes you feel good, those are all comforting things to hear. And the kind of ultimate goal would be to actually put those things into action while they are still getting us to our goals. Unfortunately, when we put those into action, we haven't gone through the processes of actually knowing how my body responds to certain things. So today let's talk about strategies and practices on how we can actually start to take steps towards mindful and intuitive eating. The first thing to note here is this is not a short-term thing. This is something that's going to take practice. It's going to take time. So let's talk about food and feelings. So this assessment is kind of just that. It's going to be able to bridge the gap between your feelings that you have and the food that you're eating. It's so important to understand why we're eating certain things. So not only mentally why we're eating certain things, but also how certain foods are making us physically feel. So there are 4 practices that we can take to start to, like I said, bridge that gap between our food and our feelings. The first one is creating an eating behaviors journal. Your eating behaviors journal is not only going to be writing down what you eat, but writing down the feelings that you have when you're eating it. Why this is important is because it might help you to uncover or discover some patterns that you maybe want to break, or some habits that you want to break. And you'll also start to understand that maybe your reasons for eating have nothing to do with you being hungry or full, right? They are completely tied to emotions, and that is something that we kind of want to disconnect. The next thing you can do is your behavior awareness. So let's say in your eating behavior journal, you start to notice that you are eating a lot of your food when you are tired, let's say. Your behavior awareness journal is for you to start writing down why you're eating certain things, maybe what's causing you to feel tired, why you want to eat when you're tired, and understanding emotional eating or maybe potentially binging episodes, then we want to really kind of, understand why that's happening. And you can start to find links or correlations between all of them to help better understand them and hopefully, break them down and maybe make some other habits instead. All right, your third one is your How Food Feels journal. This is a journal that you can start creating about how food makes you feel physically and mentally. So it's good, of course, to figure out if we have any intolerances to food, if there are some foods that make us feel a little bit, gassy or just gross. It's also really important to uncover emotions that are tied to certain foods. So if you eat something and all of a sudden it makes you feel, cozy or happy, note that down. And what is it about that food that's making you feel that way? And the last thing we can do here is create a journal. We can call it the hunger journal. And what this one is going to do is going to help you determine whether or not you are actually hungry or whether you're just feeling something else. So every time you eat something, you want to say, are you actually hungry? Do you need to eat? Anything like that. That's going to help you understand better your patterns and any kind of, habits that you have when it comes to eating. Okay, so now that you have all these journals and you're starting to write down and find patterns in your eating, next is to take some steps into how we can actually become more aware while we're eating. So the first one is to eat slowly, right? We want to be making sure that when you're eating, you're putting down your knife and fork in between each bite. You're allowing yourself to chew on it, pretty substantially so that it can digest properly. As you're doing this, you're gonna be able to get in tune with how full you're getting before you're done your entire meal. A lot of the time we eat too fast and our satiety doesn't kind of come in until we're done, and then we might feel like we're a little bit too full by the time we're done our meal and 20 minutes later. So making sure that you're eating slow, you're allowing your digestive system to work properly, and that's going to be really, really helpful into making sure that you're not overeating. The second one ties into that quite nicely, and this is eating to 80% full. Now, if you have like a big scale, and there are a couple scales that I can post in the description on how to kind of help identify when you're around that 80%, but a really easy way is to think about like a Thanksgiving dinner. And if you were at Thanksgiving dinner and you just finished, that is like 150% full, okay? On the other end of the spectrum, if you are like completely starving, your stomach is gargling, you're having hunger pangs, and it's just very uncomfortable, that of course is 0% full. Now we want to find a halfway point, right? And we usually eat to 100% full for a lot of us, where we feel like, our stomach is actually full. We want to be getting under that, so you can feel like you still have a lot of energy to get up and move around and still feel focused to maybe get back to work after that meal. Now, as you're practicing these two things, you're going to start to ask yourself some questions, and maybe even write these down about what you're starting to experience about yourself, maybe what you're starting to learn about yourself and your body as you are, getting a little bit more in tune with it. Start to understand if eating slowly allowed you to enjoy your meal more. Maybe ask yourself if your body felt physically better after eating a little bit more slowly. Recording all of these things and your feelings that are directly associated with the meals that you're eating is really going to help you get, miles ahead in being able to eat intuitively and eat mindfully. So to wrap this up, I don't want to kind of go on for too much longer, because ultimately these videos are meant to be informative, but more importantly, allow you guys to take something away. So if we can kind of, break this down into some actionable items that you guys can go and start practicing into your daily routines right away. The first one is to get a journal, okay? If you don't already have a journal, I have one here. It's called a passion planner. Now I use this for like my just kind of day-to-day agenda type stuff, but there's also some good empty spaces in the back where you can just start writing down some stuff. So we have our eating behaviors journal, right? We have our behavior awareness journal, how food feels journal, and our hunger journal. It's good to understand here that mindful eating is not something that you can just do. It takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of work, it takes an understanding of you and your mind and your physical body and its relationship towards food. So I hope this is a start into putting together a structure for you, or maybe some some homework for you to get started with, so that you can get on your path to mindful eating. So don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below, and like this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll talk with you soon.